Hello guys, welcome back to another video. We're going to be doing a crankshaft pulley replacement today. We're going to be working on my BMW E46 320D Touring with the M47 engine. But the process that I'm going to show you is the exact same for the BMW M57 engine as well. So if you are having a problem where your crankshaft pulley has failed, then do follow this video along closely. And without further ado, let's get outside and let's get cracking. Now then, before we get into this video, it's very important to note that when you are replacing your crankshaft pulley, please make sure that you buy a good quality one. So this one is a Bilstein crankshaft pulley. I think it was about 130, 140 pounds. I would only recommend genuine BMW, Bilstein, Gates, Cortigo, someone like that. You know, I would not recommend getting a cheap Chinese crankshaft pulley. If you do, it's only going to fail in a matter of miles, and they are simply just not built the same, the cheap ones. You will notice a big increase in vibrations, which is kind of what this is designed to do. It is a crankshaft dampener, so it's designed to stop the vibrations from the crankshaft itself. So yeah, please spend the money, make sure you get a good quality crankshaft pulley, and also make sure you get a new bolt, because the bolt is not replaceable. The washer is, you can, you know, still use the old washer, but make sure you do get a new bolt. Now then, first of all, what you want to do is remove the front engine cover if you have one. Now then, if we take a look into my engine bay, it may look slightly different to mine. So obviously we can see we have the viscous fan. I believe this was only applicable to the automatic versions. This is an automatic car, it has an automatic gearbox. So we have a viscous fan. This is what this is, just doesn't have the plastic fan part on. Now you'll also see we do not have any drive belts attached. Now this is how I bought the car. Obviously the crankshaft pulley has failed. Take a look in there, you can see a big crack there, and the pulley itself is rather loose. So that's why there's no belts, because the crankshaft pulley just ripped the belts off. So if you are doing this and you need to remove the belts, all you need to do is find the tensioners. You may have one or two. In my case we have two, because we have one for the AC belt as well. You just need to insert a socket and a ratchet on there, rotate it clockwise, and it'll take the tension off the belt. If you have a stretch belt here without the tensioner, then you do need a stretch belt tool. Essentially it's just a kind of like a little clip that you insert into the belt, and then you rotate the belt, and then it will eventually come off. And then pretty much the same for the drive belt as well. You need to put a socket on the automatic tensioner, rotate it clockwise, and it should take the tension off of the belt, and then you can just go ahead and slide it off. Pretty simple stuff with that really. But now we'll move on to the crankshaft pulley itself. Now looking at mine, I do not think this is the original crankshaft pulley. I mean, this car has covered 205,000 miles, so it's very unlikely that this crankshaft pulley would have lasted that long anyway. But if we take a look at the teeth, we can see these teeth are not straight, they're kind of angled, which on the original genuine BMW crankshaft pulleys, the teeth are straight. So I don't think this is the original crankshaft pulley. You know, this could be a cheap one, it could be a good decent one, I don't know, but obviously we are going to be removing it. Now the main bolt that holds it in place is this 22mm bolt. Now this thing is torqued up like crazy. I think it has to be like 100 Newton meters plus 150 degrees, which ends up being something like 380 to 400 Newton meters. So if you do have an impact wrench, that will be your best friend. If not, I'd recommend using a huge breaker bar on there, and probably some sort of extension as well to try and crack this thing loose. But I do have an impact wrench, so we are going to use this first, and if this can't get it off, then we will resort in using the breaker bar. So I'm just going to try it on its lowest setting first, setting number 1. Let's go ahead and try this. not budging it. We'll try setting number 2. And what would you know? And there we have it then. That's the bolt removed. Now, that seemed way too easy to come out. I don't think this thing was properly torqued up, because that did not seem like 400 Newton meters to me. Could be wrong, but yeah, this thing did not seem tight at all. So that's kind of half the job done then. We just need to go ahead and remove this from the engine. It should just pull off, he says. There we are. Yep, that's the crankshaft pulley removed. Now is also a good time to check your front main seal, see if you have any leaks. Looks to be relatively dry. You know, you typically see oil dripping down here if you had any leaks. I kind of don't want to go this far and, you know, replace the front main seal anyway. I just want to kind of get this thing up and running. But if you are doing this yourself, there is it is a good opportunity, like I said, to replace this seal here. So I just went ahead and gave the mating surface for the new crankshaft pulley a good clean up, because we want a nice clean surface for that to go onto. So now that is done, we can go ahead and install our new pulley. Okay. And we'll install our new bolt and washer. And now what I'm going to do is tighten down the bolt with a regular ratchet, just so it's hand tight. You want to make sure this pulley goes on square, otherwise it will cause us some problems. Obviously you're going to get to a point where the crankshaft pulley just turns, and that is when you need to lock it, and we're going to need to lock it to torque it up. So then now we will move on to torquing down the bolt. Now, as we saw before, the crankshaft pulley just rotated, you know, it just turned. We could not tighten it. So like I said, we need to lock the crankshaft somehow. Now, there are a few different ways you can do it, a couple of which I would not recommend. Now, you can try and insert a pin into the flywheel, like, you know, a crankshaft lock-in pin, if you was to say do the timing chain or whatever. I would highly recommend not to do this. You know, the crankshaft lock-in tools are not rated to like 400 Newton meters, so that's going to snap. And not only is that going to snap, you also are going to risk damaging your crankshaft. You can also try and wedge something into the flywheel. Same again though, you are going to risk damaging your flywheel. You know, you don't want to go ahead and chip some teeth off of your flywheel. So the best option is to actually lock the crankshaft at the crankshaft pulley itself. Now, you're probably looking at this tool here like, you know, this doesn't look like an official tool. That's because it's not. It's actually a custom made tool made by my dad, who is a mechanical engineer. He's managed to machine this all out so it fits over nicely onto the crankshaft pulley itself, and yeah, essentially this is able to lock the pulley. And as you can see, I've got it against some pieces of wood as well, just because it's slightly not long enough. Oh, I also have, if you haven't noticed, removed the under tray, and I've also angled out the way the anti-roll bar. It's just held in by the 4 nuts, 2 on either side. That's just so I can get the straight run down with this tool here. Now, I will leave in the description a link to a official tool that you're supposed to use for this, but I just kind of wanted to try this custom made tool out, and I think it should work quite well, to be honest, because it's you know, it's quite strong and it's very robust. So yeah, now comes the fun part of trying to torque this up. So first thing we need to do then is torque down the bolt to 100 Newton meters. Okay, there's 100 Newton meters. The next part of the torquing sequence then is where the crankshaft pulley bolt has to be torqued an additional 150 degrees, which is almost half a turn. So it's handy if you have one of these torque gauges. So you can either do it in, you know, you can do it a few different ways really. You can either try and do the whole 150, or you can go ahead and do 75 then another 75, or you can do 60 60 30. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and do 60 60 30, just because then I'll essentially got 3 goes at it. I'm going to start with the regular breaker bar first, and then after that I'm guessing I'm going to have to put an extension on it and try and work our way around to the full 150. Okay then, so a little update. We actually, I've actually changed up the setup. So rather than having this tool against the floor, well, on the piece of wood, because the wood was actually moving, I know I could obviously, you know, properly secure it, but I actually just tried and, you know, wedged this against the chassis leg, and as you can see, it's fixed perfectly on there now. So I've managed to do the first 60 degrees, as you can see. Now I'm going to attempt to do another 60 degrees, and then finally a 30 degrees. It's about 40. Let's see if we can reposition it. There we are then. That's another 60 degrees. Just a final 30 to go. That's lifting the engine. Almost. Sure there. And there we are, another 30 degrees. So we are finally on. Jesus Christ, that bolt is tight. Okay then, so there we go. That is the crankshaft pulley replaced on my BMW E46 with the M47 engine. I'm so happy that that is done now. It is very, very eerie when you are torquing that bolt. Like when you have a breaker bar and then another extension and you are really yanking on that thing, it really just feels like something is going to snap. Yeah, it's not a nice feeling at all. I'm just glad that it's done now. That's another thing done. We are going to be doing the drive belt kit next. So we're going to be replacing all the tensioners, the idler pulley, and obviously both belts as well. And then we will get the thing up, running and driving. But yeah, I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!